Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make Spritz cookies, also called Swedish butter cookies or just butter cookies. And this is what they look like. These cookies have a sweet and buttery flavor, a wonderfully crisp texture, and as you can see, I've formed them into all different shapes, and that is because we are going to use a cookie press for this. Now, I've left my cookies plain, that's how I like them, but you can decorate them with like sparkling sugar, candied sprinkles, chopped nuts, even some candied cherries. So the first thing that you will need to do is to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And then you will need 2 baking sheets. Now, this is very important when you're using a cookie press. We want to butter our cookie sheet. So what I've done is I've just melted a little bit of butter, and I'm using a pastry brush here, and just butter the whole sheet. Okay. And then what you want to do is to put this cookie sheet in the refrigerator to get it nice and cold. So I would say about 15 minutes. So when you preheat your oven, do this, put it into the refrigerator. I've already done that. So this one is going to be for my second batch of cookies. So I'll just leave that there. So now for our, to make the dough, if you have a stand mixer like I have here, use your paddle attachment. You could use a hand mixer, or really you could just a large bowl with a wooden spoon or a spatula. The first thing you will need is 1 cup. These are butter cookies. 1 cup, which is 225 grams of butter. I'm using unsalted butter. That's what I prefer to use. You could use, if you have a favorite salted butter, you could use that. Just leave out the salt that I'm going to put in the recipe because you have enough salt in the butter. So next you will need 1/2 cup, which is 100 grams of granulated white sugar. Mine is kind of off-white. That's because I'm using an organic cane sugar, but you know, granulated white, either one. And if you wanted, I don't want a vanilla flavor. Some people would like their cookies to be vanilla flavored. If you do, add 1.5 teaspoons, 6 grams of pure vanilla extract to there. Or really, if you wanted an almond flavor, you could add like maybe 1/2 teaspoon of pure almond extract. That's another option. So now what I'm going to do is beat this on medium speed just to get everything mixed together. Okay, and periodically stop and scrape down the sides and bottom of your bowl, especially at this stage when you're beating the butter and the sugar, kind of sticky. Scrape down a bit. So now what we're going to do is add 2 large egg yolks. Have your egg yolks at room temperature. Now 2 large egg yolks is about 32 grams. And we're just going to beat that in, medium speed. Okay, let's scrape here. These are just so good. The flavor, if you like butter, I do. The butter flavor, and then just, you know, we didn't put a lot of sugar, so they're not, I don't find them overly sweet. And then that texture, crisp, hard to eat one, I'll admit. So now, you will need 2 cups, which is 260 grams of all-purpose flour, plain flour, and then I'm adding just 1/4 teaspoon, 1 gram. I'm using a kosher salt. You can use a table salt. And let's mix that, and that's it. There is no baking powder. We don't want any rise. This is like really an enriched shortbread, so they're dense, and that gives you a nice crispy. So I know people are going to ask, no baking powder. And I'm just going to slowly beat this in till we have everything mixed together. And we are done. I mean, it's a really easy dough batter to make. So, scrape that out. It depends on the size of your cookies, but with the size I make, I get about 48 cookies. If you go, that's too many, then you could half the recipe very easily. But these freeze really well. And I don't know about you, but I tend to eat too many of them. So 4 dozen is not too many for me. Okay, so now a cookie press. That's how we get these really cool shapes. And you can see your cookie press is, well, actually, this has a part where you put in your plate, and you have all these different plates, I guess I'm going to call them plates, all different shapes. Typically, the manual that you have that comes with your cookie press will show you, because it's kind of like, what kind of shape would that be? So usually there's pictures and you can see which plate and what shape you will get. And then you decide, you can change. You don't have to press them all. You can change your plate out very easily. Now, if you go to the description box, there will be a link to the written recipe, and I'm going to link in there, link, to the cookie press I'm using here. I know some people are going to ask. There's all different brands. I like this one because it's metal, but it's up to you. So you put your plate in there, and then you just smear that down. So you can easily unscrew this. If you like do half a dozen and you want to do another shape, you can easily just undo this and change your plate. And you have the top part. So now what we want to do, it's a fairly soft dough. So we want to put in, fill it up at least 3/4. This is the fun part to do. That should be good. And then we're gonna, this will press, you press this down and screw this on. So now, remember we put our baking sheet into the refrigerator so it's nice and cold. That way when we press the cookies, they're gonna stick to that cold baking sheet. And a lot of the presses, mine does anyways, has 2 sizes. I can make them small, I can make them large, so I want them large. So I'm going to be right back. I'm just going to get my baking sheet. Okay, we're back. So now we are going to press out our cookies. So, and then all you do is put that on there and clamp down. Now, the first one is like a prime. It's not quite, I'll show you another one. And I'll show you the difference. You see they're different? So this one, although it is very cute, could bake it off, but let's go like that and press them out. I put about 12 per sheet. I ran out of dough. So I'm going to do 11. So there we have it. Now, if you wanted to, you could put some sparkling sugar, some candy sprinkles, nuts, or you can take like candied cherries and cut them in half and put them in the center, kind of make a flower. But you know what? I just like tasting the butter cookie. That's it. So I'm going to leave it like that. So we're going to bake these off. I'm going to say between 9 and 12 minutes. As I always say, everyone's oven is a little different. It can be a little shorter, it could be a little longer. So what you're looking for is they'll take on a little color, but they're done when just around the edges you can start to see them brown. That's how I like it. Of course, the longer you bake them, the more crispy they will be. So, you know, you might want yours a little less, a little more than mine. So, you know, bake some off and test them. That's what we're here for, to test and see if that's the texture you want, and then you can adjust your baking time. I do rotate my baking sheet front to back about halfway through baking just to get an even bake. So I'm going to say 9 to 12 minutes. Okay. So our Spritz cookies are done. So put your baking sheet on a wire rack. As you can see, just around the edges, they're starting to brown. That's how I like them. So I'm going to let them sit here maybe a minute, and then I'll use my spatula to transfer them over to a wire rack to finish cooling. So that's what I'm going to do. And when we come back, we will try one. So now we get to try one, the best part. So they just kind of melt in your mouth. Nice and crisp. Gotta have another bite just to make sure. I love these cookies. You know, there's not a lot of competing flavors. It's about the butter. Let's face it, it's about the butter cookie. So you can use, if you live like in the States, you can use like regular, like unsalted. You can also use the high-fat butters. They're called cultured butters, European-style butters. That's what I use today. Because, hey, let's go for broke if we're going to have a butter cookie. So you can use either type because it is all about the butter. So they will store, I would say 10 days to 2 weeks at room temperature or in the refrigerator. They also freeze really well. You know, Spritz cookies are really popular at Christmas time. So, you know, if you want to get your baking done ahead of time, these freeze beautifully. Actually, I eat them right out of the freezer cold. They're still really good. Wonderful with a hot cup of tea, I think, coffee, just perfect. You must try these. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.